The following is transcribed.
Welcome to Condensed Bat-Supe. Now with 66% fewer superheroes than our regular podcast, which makes Condensed Bat-Supe even less nutritious, but still just as delicious. We're featuring episodes of the adventures of Superman without the caped crusaders. Tie on your capes for lots of fearful confessions, plenty of gut feelings, and talking like a punk galore. In this edition of Condensed Bat-Supe, the Unity House story continues with the next two chapters of the Hate Mongers organization. This is Chapter 11, A Trick of Fate, as originally broadcast on April 30th, 1946.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
Kellogg's Pep. P-E-P, Pep. Kellogg's Pep, the Sunshine Cereal, presents
The Adventures of Superman. Today, the quick thinking of the Man of Steel has saved Jimmy Olsen from imminent danger, only to pave the way for a new surprise in his fight against the vicious power of intolerance.
Hi there, gang. This is your pal Dan McCullough. Say, just in case Mom should ask, here's what to tell her about why you're being so careful to eat every last bit of your morning dish of Kellogg's Pep these days. First of all, this sunny golden toasted cereal tastes a doggone good. It's so crisp and fresh that you polish off your dish clean as a whistle. Then, Kellogg's Pep is good for you, too. Sure, every bowlful gives you more than twice as much of an energy vitamin, B1, as sun-ripened whole wheat, plus your whole daily minimum of sunshine vitamin D. That's the very same vitamin sunshine makes for you. Helps build strong bones and teeth. And then, there are the hungry fellows and girls overseas. They're another reason why you don't want to waste one single crisp flake of Kellogg's Pep. Because the cereal grains, like the whole wheat and pep, are being sent abroad to help feed those children who need those good grain foods so they can grow up sturdy and strong. So keep this in mind, gang, when Mom brings Kellogg's Pep home from the grocer's. Don't waste it. If you pour your own cereal, pour it carefully and eat up every bit of what you pour out. Tell your younger brothers and sisters to be careful, too. That's your job in helping to take care of the fellows and girls who are so hungry nowadays overseas.
And now, the adventures of Superman. In a daring attempt to identify whoever is behind an organized campaign to spread the poison of intolerance throughout the city of Metropolis, Jimmy Olsen, cub reporter for the Daily Planet, masquerading as a young tough, joined a juvenile gang led by a boy known as Muggs. Clark Kent, who, as we know, is Superman, believes Muggs and his gang are cat's paws for the hate-mongering group, and Jimmy's dangerous job is to use Muggs to get to the higher-ups. But unfortunately, one of the gang members discovered that Jimmy was a spy, and in yesterday's episode, as you remember, Clark Kent was forced to pull a false arrest at the pool-room hangout of the gang in order to save Jimmy from exposure. As we continue now, Jimmy and Kent are at the latter's apartment. It is almost midnight. Jimmy is standing at a window, looking out at the dark street below. He is strangely silent.
What's the matter, Jim? Huh? Come on, snap out of it. What's the matter?
Well, nothing's the matter, honest.
Now, look, pal, stop fencing. Let's have it straight from the shoulder. Something's bothering you. I know it, and you know it, so out with it. Confession is good for the soul.
Well, what am I going to confess?
That little session at the pool room tonight frightened you, didn't it, Jim?
Frighten me?
Now, you don't have to be ashamed of fear, Jim. People are born with fear. It's a natural instinct, like hunger and self-preservation. Being afraid of something doesn't make you a coward, not by a long shot.
Did you ever feel like your legs were made of water? And you couldn't breathe because something was choking you in the throat and you got cold all over?
Is that how you felt at the pool room?
That's how I felt when I was in the back room with Muggs. And the door opened and I saw Dutch coming toward us. All I could think was in another few seconds he's going to tell Muggs I'm a spy. Then they're going to close the door. And I remembered what Danny O'Neill looked like in the hospital after they beat him up.
You had a perfect right to be afraid, Jim.
Well, you don't understand. I wasn't afraid of getting beaten up. That wasn't it. I wasn't even afraid of getting killed. I got cold all over because I knew the minute Dutch opened his mouth, the whole thing was going to bust up.
Yeah.
Like you said, the rats would run for cover, and we'd never catch him. That's why I was afraid.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all over now, Jim. Dutch won't open his mouth until we're ready to let him open it. You're still in the clear.
I don't know. I don't know if I am, and I get worried when I think they might get wise.
Well, how can they now? Dutch is the only one who knows, and he's being watched day and night.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still worried. I keep thinking if I miss the boat, if I don't come through the way you've got it figured out, there might be a dozen Danny O'Neills in the hospital. And some of them will die.
Yeah, I know.
And maybe 100 stores like Mr. Hoffman's drugstore get burned up, just like it happened in Germany.
You're right, Jim, you're right. They won't stop with the Danny O'Neills and the Dave Hoffmans either. You see, it isn't just the Catholics or the Jews or the Protestants they're after. That's only an excuse. Their game is to stir up hatred among all of us. To get the Catholic to hate the Jew and the Jew to hate the Protestant and the Protestant to hate the Catholic. It's an old trick, but for some reason a lot of us still fall for it.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Those kids in the gang, Muggs and Dutch and the rest of them, they don't even know what they're doing.
The most important thing they don't know is that once the hate mongers get into power, they'll suffer as much as the Danny O'Neills and the Dave Hoffmans.
I know.
Oh, well, look, it's after midnight, Jim. You're tired. How about turning in, huh?
I don't know whether I can sleep. I've got a funny feeling something's wrong.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
I can't explain it, but...
Well, who's that at this time of the night?
It might be Miss Lane or Mr. White.
There's only one way to find out. Hello. Oh, hello, Inspector.
Inspector Henderson?
Yes. What was that, Inspector? Great Scott, no.
What is it, Mr. Kent?
Just a minute, Jim. Yeah? Well, I'm sorry, Inspector, but... Well, I know, but... Oh, now, look, Inspector, there's no sense hanging on the phone arguing about it. Sure, I know, but the fat's in the fire. What we've got to do is either pull it out or quench the fire. Well, I'll be right down. Yes, immediately. Okay.
Is something wrong?
Not something, Jim. Everything. Golly, you must be clairvoyant.
I must be what?
Clairvoyant. You can see into the future.
Who, me?
A minute ago, you said you had a feeling that something was wrong. You don't know how right you were. Get your hat and coat, Jim. We've got to get down to police headquarters.
Oh, what for?
Well, this may sound strange, but we're going to put you in jail. Make sure that cell door's locked, Charlie. There's a dangerous criminal behind those bars.
Oh, cut it out, Mr. Kent. This isn't funny.
No, you're right, Jim. It isn't.
Will that be all, Mr. Kent?
Yes, that's all, Charlie. Thanks. Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
Would you tell the inspector we'll be ready in, 5 minutes?
Okay.
Now, Jim, we've got to work fast. Listen carefully, because one mistake, one slip, and we're in trouble.
Oh, you better start from the beginning, then. I'm all mixed up.
All right, keep your voice down. Now, here it is. There's a lawyer waiting in Inspector Henderson's office now. He won't reveal who's retaining him, but he came to headquarters to inquire about your arrest. You know, that phony arrest Sergeant Malloy and I pulled at the pool room?
Yeah?
That's why I arrest you down here, and that's why you're locked in a cell.
Why?
Because putting two and two together, this is what I get. When you were arrested and taken out of the pool room, Muggs immediately reported to his bosses, the higher-ups we're after. They evidently contacted this lawyer and sent him down here to find out why you were being held. The chances are he was told to get you out before the police could make you talk.
Oh, now I see.
Fortunately, Henderson didn't tell him you weren't under arrest. He just kept mum and called me.
Oh, he could have told him I was released.
Yes, but it's smarter than that. Much smarter.
How?
We're going to let the lawyer talk to you and then get you out. Once you're out, he may take you directly to the people we're after. The hate mongers behind Muggs and his gang.
Oh, golly, you think so?
It's a long chance, Jim, but it's worth taking. What you'll have to do is play tough and suspicious. Make him think you don't trust anyone.
Oh, is he coming down here?
Uh-huh. Henderson's going to let him talk to you. In fact, he can't help himself. Under the law, a prisoner has a right to see his lawyer.
Well, do you have to call me a prisoner?
Oh, it's just part of the act, Jim.
Oh.
Now, look, have you got everything straight?
I think so. I'm to play tough and suspicious.
That's right. He'll ask you why you were arrested. Your answer is you don't know.
Uh-huh.
Now, he may ask a whole lot of other questions, but just be cagey.
Yeah.
Act as though you suspect he's a detective trying to trap you.
Okay. Golly, I hope I can do it.
Sure you can. Well, I better go now. He'll be down any minute. So long, Jim. And good luck.
Thanks, Mr. Kent. I got a feeling I'm going to need all the luck I can find.
We'll be back in a moment for the exciting climax of today's episode.
You know, gang, old man's son is responsible for a lot of mighty fine things. Fact is, we just couldn't get along without him. But one of the best things he does for you is to make that wonderful vitamin D that helps build strong bones and sturdy teeth. And did you know, gang, that you get that very same vitamin D effect in Kellogg's Pep? Actually, your whole daily minimum need of vitamin D. Also, an energy vitamin B1, more than twice as much as in sun-ripened whole wheat. And Pep is so doggone crisp and golden and good tasting that, well, you feel like cleaning up every last spoonful in your bowl. And fellas and girls, that's just exactly what you should do these days, because Pep is made from whole wheat, one of the great cereal grains that's been picked out to feed millions of hungry fellas and girls overseas. Now, these children can't grow up big and strong if they don't have enough to eat, and they can't have enough to eat unless we help them. So here's something mighty important that you can do. When Mom brings Kellogg's Pep home from the grocer's, make it your job to see that it's not wasted. If you pour your own cereal, pour it carefully and eat up every bit you pour out. Tell the family to be careful, too. Just make sure that you don't waste cereal, and you'll be helping to make sure that some fellow or girl just like you won't go hungry overseas.
Locked in a detention cell at police headquarters after his phony arrest at the pool room used by Muggs and his gang as a hideout, Jimmy awaits the arrival of a lawyer, evidently engaged by the mysterious hate mongers responsible for the organized campaign of racial and religious intolerance in the city of Metropolis. As we rejoin Jim now, a uniformed guard is leading a short, thin man along the corridor toward the cell. They stop in front of it. The guard unlocks the heavy steel door.
10 minutes, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Your name's Olsen, isn't it?
What's it to you?
Now, look, my boy, I'm here to help you. I'm a lawyer.
Oh, yeah? Who sent you?
Never mind who sent me. Why'd they arrest you? What'd you do?
I don't know.
Well, you must have some idea.
Oh, yeah?
Stop saying, oh, yeah, and answer my questions. Why were you arrested?
I don't know. How many times do I gotta tell you?
Did the cops talk to you at all?
Who wants to know?
I do. I told you I'm a lawyer. Been hired to get you out of here.
Yeah? Who hired you?
That's unimportant.
Oh, yeah? Well, I ain't talking to nobody, see?
Now, look, you can talk to me. I'm your lawyer. I'm going to help you.
How do I know what you are? Maybe you're a dick.
Muggs knows I'm not a dick.
Yeah? Who's Muggs?
You're a smart boy, Olsen. They don't have to worry about you.
Who don't?
The people who engaged me to get you out.
Yeah? Who are they?
You wouldn't know if I told you. Now listen to me.
I ain't listening to nobody.
You'd like to get out of this cell, wouldn't you?
I'll get out.
Not unless I help you, you won't. Sooner or later, they'll start questioning you. They'll make you talk.
That's what you think.
Now listen to me.
I told you,
Listen,
I
I said. My name's Walter Green. I'm the lawyer for the people you and Muggs work for. Now, the police haven't got a thing on you, and I'm going to get you out of here within the next half hour, if you'll cooperate.
What do I have to do?
Nothing. Just say you don't know why you were arrested.
Yeah? Then what happens?
They'll release you.
Okay. Let's see you do it.
I'll do it all right. You'll be free in half an hour.
If I am, I ain't going back to the pool room.
Why not?
I gotta get to the boss. The big boss.
Why?
I got something to tell him. Something hot.
You can tell me.
Oh, no, I ain't that dopey.
You don't trust me, do you, Wilson?
I don't trust nobody.
All right. Since you don't trust anybody, I guess we can trust you. Now, when I get you out of here...
Yeah?
When I get you out of here, I'll take you to the big boss.
Scarcely able to believe his ears, Jimmy fights desperately to still the mad, excited pounding of his heart, terrified lest the expression on his face reveal his tense, nervous anxiety. Clark Kent was right. The trick has worked. The lawyer is going to lead him directly to the man responsible for the campaign of intolerance, the spreader of hate himself. Will it be like leading a lamb to slaughter? Or is this the beginning of the end for the enemies of decency? Gang, there's a thrill a minute in tomorrow's tense episode as Jimmy takes his life in his hands to help Superman fight his greatest battle, the battle against hatred and prejudice. So don't miss it. Tune in tomorrow, same time, same station, for the episode entitled The Rat Hole.
And remember, for breakfast, it's Kellogg's Pep.
For excitement, the adventures of Superman.
Say, gang, if you've ever had a race with your dog, you know how much he enjoys running and jumping. Now, dogs are like people. To keep their muscles strong, they have to eat right. So if you want to help your dog to stay in the groove, to have strong bones and teeth and muscles, just mix Kellogg's Grope-Up dog food in with the scraps of meat and fat you give him. There are 3 kinds of Grope-Up, all with a grand, meaty flavor. There's Grope-Up Ribbon, Grope-Up Meal, and Grope-Up Pellets. Ask your mother to feed your dog Kellogg's Grope-Up regularly. And be sure to be with us tomorrow for the thrilling adventures of Superman. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
And now, faster than a speeding bullet, Condensed Bat-Supe proudly presents Chapter 12 of the Hate Mongers storyline. The episode titled The Rat Hole, which was originally broadcast on May 1st, 1946.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
Kellogg's Pep. P-E-P, Pep. Kellogg's Pep, the Sunshine Cereal, presents
The Adventures of Superman. Today, a grave responsibility rests on young Jimmy Olsen, for Walter Green has promised to take him to the leader of the group that so avidly seeks to destroy the Fellowship of Man.
Say, gang, do you know why Mother likes you to play outdoors when the sun is shining? Why, because the sun makes good old vitamin D for you that helps build strong bones and teeth. And do you know why Mom likes you to clean up every bit of your breakfast bowl full of Kellogg's Pep? Well, for one thing, because Pep gives you your whole daily minimum need of that same sunshine vitamin D in every 1-ounce serving, plus more than twice as much of an energy vitamin B1 as in sun-ripened whole wheat. Kellogg's Pep is a doggone sunny, nutritious cereal. Doggone good tasting, too. And, gang, here's something else that Mom's thinking about when she serves up Kellogg's Pep. Nowadays, it's more important than ever that you eat every last bite, because whole wheat is one of the good golden grains that's been picked out to help feed hungry fellows and girls all over the world. These children can't grow up sturdy and strong if we don't help them. So think of that when it's Pep time at your house. Don't waste it. If you pour your own cereal, pour it carefully and eat all that you pour out. Tell the rest of your family to be careful, too. That's one way you can help those hungry children overseas.
And now, The Adventures of Superman.
When Jimmy Olsen, masquerading as a young tough, found himself in a position where he was about to be exposed as a spy and suffer violence at the hands of Muggs and his gang of juvenile hoodlums, there seemed to be no escape. But Clark Kent, accompanied by a police sergeant, arrived at the pool room hangout of the gang just in time, and going through the motions of a phony arrest, rushed Jimmy out of danger. Now, a strange situation has developed. Muggs has informed the mysterious head of the hate-mongering organization behind his gang that Jimmy was arrested, and a lawyer named Walter Green has been sent to police headquarters to get Jimmy out of jail. Actually, of course, Jimmy is not under arrest, but again, guided by Clark Kent, he is putting on an act in an effort to learn the identity of the breeders of hate. As we continue now, Green, the lawyer, has left Jimmy and has gone to Inspector Henderson's office to demand his release. For a long moment, the prison corridor is silent and empty. Then soft footsteps fade in, and the figure of Clark Kent looms up out of the half-darkness at the bars of the cell.
Jim?
That you, Mr. Kent?
Yes. How did you make out?
Gosh, I don't know. I can't believe it yet.
Can't believe what?
He said he's going to take me to the big boss.
What? That's wonderful.
Well, there must be a catch to it. I don't trust him.
Why did he offer to do it?
Well, I don't know.
Hold it. Someone's coming. Okay, it's Charlie making the rounds. He went down the other corridor. Now, why did he offer to do it, Jim?
I don't know. Except I was acting awful tough and making out like I was suspicious of him, the way you told me.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, he said I was a smart kid, and he was going to take me up to meet the big boss. But I think there's a catch in it.
Maybe not. Where is he now, with Henderson?
Yeah, I guess so. He said he'd get me out if he had to swear a writ of something or other.
Habeas corpus.
What's that, Mr. Kent? It sounds like Latin.
It is. A writ of habeas corpus is permission granted by the court for someone to have or possess a human being who is being unlawfully held by the police.
Boy, someone sure figured things out.
Yes, Jim, someone sure did. That's why we're all so jealous of American democracy, because it guards its citizens against abuses. You know what happened in Germany under Hitler? A man could rot in jail before anyone could get near him.
Oh, you mean what happened in Germany couldn't happen here?
Unless we're mighty careful, it could. Hitler may be dead, but his mad, twisted ideas didn't die with him. There are still a lot of people who want power. Well, like the man we're after. And they know the best way to get it is to start trouble among different races and religions. That's what we've got to fight, Jim, and there isn't much time.
Yeah, Green will be down again any minute.
All right, now look, Jim, your hunch may be right. There could be a catch to this. But either way, you can't back out now. You'll have to follow through.
Okay.
Now, all I can tell you is be careful. Watch your step. Don't take any chances.
Mm-hmm.
Too much at stake. If Green does lead you to the man behind the hate campaign, you'll be stepping into a rat hole. Just remember, Jim, rats have sharp teeth.
How far we gotta go before we get to where you're taking me, mister?
What difference does it make?
Makes a lot of difference. I don't like the looks of this.
Relax, Olsen. Got you out of jail, didn't I?
So what? They didn't have nothing on me.
Look, you're a smart boy. You can go far. If you keep your nose clean.
How far am I going now?
Large apartment house in the middle of the block.
Who lives there?
You'll find out in just a few moments. You wait here in the foyer, Olsen. I'll be right back.
First, I want to know whose joint this is.
I told you you'll find out in a few moments. Now wait there.
I'll find out sooner than that, Mr. Green. If I can. This door doesn't look very thick. Maybe I can hear...
the Olsen boy with me.
Yes, I can.
Why did you bring him here?
Well, I thought maybe you wanted to see him.
Why should I want to see the little gutter snipe?
I'll remember that, you punk.
A lot smarter than Muggs. I couldn't get him to open his mouth.
Just wait till I
Is
start,
that
Mr.
supposed
Green.
to be a recommendation for cleverness, a closed mouth?
Well, I mean, I couldn't get him to talk. He was suspicious of him.
And yet he allowed you to bring him here.
I had quite a job talking him into it.
I pay you to handle my legal business and the legal business of this organization, Green, not to conduct my labor relations. Why was he arrested?
Well, he was being held for questioning about the automobile accident the other boy was involved in.
Is that all?
That's all as far as I could find out. First, they wouldn't let me see him. Kept me waiting almost a half hour. Finally, they realized they had nothing to hold him. Now, he's the kind of boy we need. Smart, fast, plenty of nerve.
All right, bring him in.
Take a deep breath, Olsen. This is it.
Backing away from the door, Jimmy waits for it to open. His mouth suddenly gone dry and his heart pounding against his ribs. Yes, this is it. In a moment, the door will open, and he will be led into the rat hole. And as Clark Kent said, rats have sharp teeth. What will happen? We'll know in a moment when we return for the climax of today's exciting episode. So stand by.
You know, gang, this business of eating every last spoonful of your morning dish of Kellogg's Pep is mighty important these days. Of course, nobody has to be coaxed to eat Pep. Why, every 1 ounce serving of Kellogg's Pep gives you your whole daily minimum need of sunshine vitamin D. There's an energy vitamin, too, B1, more than twice as much as in sun-ripened whole wheat. But you have other people to think about, too, when you're polishing off your breakfast bowl full of Kellogg's Pep. Other fellas and girls just like you who are hungry and undernourished. These children overseas need the good golden cereal grains to help them grow up sturdy and strong. That's why there should be no waste of cereals at your house. So when Mom brings Kellogg's Pep home from the grocer's, make yourself a committee of one to help guard against waste. If you pour your own cereal, pour it carefully and eat up every bit you pour out. Tell your younger brothers and sisters to be careful, too. Then you're doing your bit to help those hungry children overseas.
Come in, Olsen.
It's about time.
You only waited a few minutes. Come in.
Who's in there?
Step inside and you'll find out.
I don't see no one.
You can hear me, can't you?
Who said that?
I did.
Where are you?
Behind the velvet curtain directly in front of you. Stay where you are. Don't move. You can't see me. In fact, you're very fortunate to be able to hear me.
What's this all about, Green?
Just listen to him.
Olsen?
What?
How long have you been working for Muggs?
I ain't talking.
You can talk to me. It's perfectly safe.
Oh, yeah? How do I know? What's your name?
My name wouldn't mean anything to you.
He's a tough man, Olsen.
That's what you say. Why don't he come out from behind that curtain?
Because my identity must remain secret. You know the type of work we're doing, don't you?
What's that got to do with it?
No one except a few close associates, such as Mr. Green, must know who is at the head of the Guardians of America.
The what?
The Guardians of America. That's the name of our organization. We have banded together to guard this country against the foreigners in our midst. For those of us who have pure blood. You know what happened to the drugstore belonging to the Jew, Hoffman?
Yeah, I know.
The same thing will happen to all the members of the committee attempting to raise money to build an interfaith community house. We don't want the Catholics and the Jews to get along with one another. We don't want Protestants to mingle with Catholics. If that happens, we'll never gain any power. People who are friendly and stick together are hard to control. We want them hating one another. That's why we spread stories around. We tell the Christians that the Jews are trying to take over the country. And we tell the Jews the Christians want to kill every one of them.
But that's not...
Of course it's not true. But as Hitler said, if you tell a lie over and over again, people will begin to believe it.
So what good did it do him? He got knocked off.
Hitler was a great man, Olsen. He made only one mistake. He moved too fast. But we're not making that mistake. We're going slowly. And you can go along with us if you wish.
Yeah? How?
Well, Mr. Green here seems to think that you're a very smart boy. I'm going to give you a chance to prove it. I'm going to give you a job to do.
What kind of a job?
A very important job. A man named Klein owns an art gallery here in Metropolis. There are some very valuable paintings in the gallery, paintings worth thousands of dollars. Now, Mr. Klein has contributed a large sum of money to that Unity House building fund, despite our warning. Are you following me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want you to buy yourself a new suit of clothes, get your hair cut, and pay a visit to Mr. Klein's art gallery. You can be a high school boy who has to write a composition on famous paintings, and you're looking some of them over. You'll take a sharp razor blade with you, and while you're looking at the paintings, you'll slash some of them.
Oh, yeah? And what if I get caught?
Well, if you're as smart as he thinks you are, you won't get caught. And I'll pay you $50 for each painting you cut.
$50 for each one?
Yes.
Okay. When do I do it?
Tomorrow afternoon. I'll give you the address for the art gallery before you leave. And I'll also give you the names of the paintings I want destroyed.
Swell.
And one more thing.
Yeah?
If you handle this job properly, you can take Muggs's place as leader of the gang.
Staring at the black velvet curtain from behind which comes the cold, hard voice of the mysterious leader of the so-called Guardians of America, Jimmy gulps. Still unable to identify the owner of the voice, he finds himself faced with a problem. If he refuses the job he has been offered, he may never have another opportunity to make the identification. But if he accepts the job, it will mean committing an act of violence, a crime. What can he do? What would you do if you were in Jimmy Olsen's place? Think it over, and tomorrow be sure to listen to find out what Jimmy does with the help of Superman. Yes, be sure to listen tomorrow, same time, same station, for the exciting episode entitled Superman Sets a Trap. And remember, for breakfast, it's Kellogg's Pep. For excitement, the adventures of Superman.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Superman DC comic magazines and is brought to you Monday through Friday at the same time by Kellogg's Pep, the Sunshine Cereal.
And now, it's time for a Condensed Bat-Supe Extra Helping, because not all heroes can fly around the world without help. This Extra Helping features a story that begins on Thanksgiving Day. A rather condensed, or should I say, telling of Miracle on 34th Street, as presented on the Screen Directors Playhouse on December 23rd, 1949.
From Hollywood, the Screen Directors Playhouse.
Screen Directors Playhouse, star Edmund Gwenn, Production, Miracle on 34th Street. Director, George Seaton.
The Hollywood Screen Directors present a Christmas party. For the 500 special girls and boys gathered here in NBC's Hollywood studios, and for children of all ages everywhere, we present the motion picture Christmas story, Miracle on 34th Street, starring Edmund Gwenn in his original Academy Award-winning role of Kris Kringle.
You don't believe in Santa Claus? Well, why not? Santa Claus believes in you.
The jaunty, portly little man with the white whiskers swung his cane as he walked in the brisk November morning. He walked into a department store famous across the nation, Macy's 34th Street, New York, crowded amiably into the elevator, and got out at the employment office. It seems a Mrs. Doris Walker was the lady to see up there.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes?
You'll be needing a Santa Claus for your toy department this Christmas. I wish to apply for the position.
Well, we do need a Santa Claus if you're qualified.
Oh, I'm eminently qualified.
Do you like children?
Who doesn't?
Do you have any children?
Millions of them.
I must certainly say you look like Santa Claus.
Well, I certainly should look like Santa Claus.
You won't even need padding.
Oh, no, I carry my own.
Now, you understand that Macy's has a line of toys that you may recommend with complete confidence.
I assume that I'm hired?
Yes. Can you start tomorrow morning, Mr.
Kringle.
What?
Kringle. I'm Kris Kringle.
The new Santa Claus was positively the most sensational Santa Claus who had ever held court on Macy's 7th floor. He was the real article, all right. He had that deep down, genuine, crisp, Kris Kringle crinkle in his eyes. And if he told you anything, you could depend on it.
Electric trains? Why, yes, Peter. Yes, madam, right over that way. Realistic models of the Chief and Super Chief. Now, what about you, little girl? Huh? Oh, yes, madam. We have wonderful skates here, but not quite what your little boy seems to want. Now, I'd suggest you go across the street to Gimbel's.
Gimbel's?
Oh, yes, I keep track of the toy market pretty closely. Why, does that surprise you, Sue?
Macy's sending me to another store?
Well, the only important thing is to make the children happy, isn't it? Huh? And whether Macy's or somebody else sells the toy doesn't make any difference.
Well, it's wonderful. I don't get it.
I don't get it at all.
Well, you can get it at the Acme Toy Company. Only $8.50, plus tax.
And so it went. And so the customers went. To other stores if Macy's didn't have it. The grown-ups began to believe in Santa Claus as much as the children. All except one small child named Susan Walker, who finally came to Kris Kringle, a skeptical look on her small face and a prodding young man at her back.
Well, young lady, and what would you like for Christmas?
Go ahead, Susan. Tell Santa what you'd like.
What's your name, little girl?
Susan Walker, and I don't believe in Santa Claus.
Oh.
My mother happens to be Mrs. Walker, the lady who hired you.
Well, your daddy here believes I'm Santa Claus, I'll bet.
He's not my daddy. My father and mother are divorced. This is Mr. Gailey, who lives in the apartment next to ours.
I see.
He's a lawyer at law.
Attorney at law, Susan.
He pretends he brought me to see you, but he really came to visit Mother.
Oh.
Oh, brother.
I must say you're the best-looking Santa Claus Mother ever hired.
Oh, thank you.
Your whiskers aren't loose at the sides.
Well, that's because they're real. Just like I'm really Santa Claus.
Oh, now stop.
Now go ahead. Come on, pull them.
Pull them?
Go ahead.
All right.
Oh!
Well, they're on pretty tight, all right.
Now what would you like me to bring you for Christmas?
Susan.
There's Mother now.
I'm dead.
Susan, Mr. Gailey, I told you not to bring Susan down here.
But your maid is out sick, and Susan was alone
Mr.
at
Gailey,
home.
I am bringing Susan up to face reality.
Well, in reality, he came to see you, Mrs. Walker.
Oh, really? Mr. Gailey, will you step this way, please?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your name?
Kris Kringle.
That's your trade name. I mean your real name.
Santa Claus.
We can talk here, Fred.
Now, Doris...
I keep telling Susan that Santa Claus is a myth, and you bring her down here to see thousands of children like herself worshiping a very convincing old man with real whiskers. What's she to think? What's she to believe?
Whatever makes her happy.
Well, I don't want my child growing up to consider life a fairy tale instead of reality. They keep waiting for a Prince Charming to come along, and when he does, he turns out to be someone they...
Someone they'll have to divorce?
We were talking about Susan.
Oh.
In fact, I'm going to have to talk to that Santa Claus about Susan before he goes to lunch.
Yes, Mrs. Walker?
The reason I called you into my office was to have you tell Susan here that you're not Santa Claus.
Yeah, but I am Santa Claus.
See, Mother? A girl doesn't know what to think these days.
I want you to tell her the truth. Now, what's your name?
Kris Kringle.
See?
I mean your real name.
Well, that is my real name.
Now, see here, Excuse me a moment.
Yes, Mrs. Walker.
Miss Thomas, will you get out an employment card filled out by a Mr. Kris Kringle, if there is one? I'll wait.
I'll bet you're in the first grade, Susan.
Second.
Second?
I'm very advanced.
Oh.
Here it is, Mrs. Walker. Mr. Kris Kringle.
No.
Yeah, Kris Kringle. Residence, Brooks Memorial Home for the Aged. Age as old as my tongue and a little older than my teeth.
Oh, no.
Do you know what I think?
Yes, the same thing I think.
I think he's nuts.
That's what I think.
He really believes he's Santa Claus.
With bells on.
You better get rid of him. He might be dangerous.
Thank you, Miss Thomas. I agree. Mr. Kringle, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to make a change.
Have I done something wrong?
Well, no. That is, not wrong. But, excuse me. Yes?
Mr. Macy's on the phone.
Oh, put him on.
Mrs. Walker.
Yes, Mr. Macy?
I've just heard about your new Santa Claus.
Oh, yes, Mr. Macy. I was just going into that, Mr. Macy.
The very idea of his telling people that if Macy's doesn't have it, to go to Gimbel's.
Well, I have him right... Gimbel's?
Directly across the street.
Imagine Macy's Santa Claus sending customers to Gimbel's. Wonderful.
Huh?
The public response is wonderful. We're getting to be known as the helpful store, the friendly store, the store that places public service ahead of profits. And consequently, we'll make more profit than ever.
Yes, sir.
Great idea, Mrs. Walker. Great work. Keep it up.
Yes, Mr. Macy.
And above all, keep that Santa Claus.
Keep him? But he's...
He's great.
But, Mr. Macy, I don't...
Goodbye, Mrs. Walker.
Mr. Macy, Mr. Kringle.
Yes?
Mr. Macy suggests that we try you out a little longer.
Well, that's mighty good news, Mrs. Walker. You see, this is quite an opportunity for me. Yes, for the last 50 years or so, I've been getting more and more worried about Christmas. Seems we're all so busy trying to beat the other fellow in making things go faster and look shinier and cost less that Christmas and I are sort of getting lost in the shuffle.
Christmas is still Christmas.
Oh, but it isn't just a day. It's a frame of mind. And that's what's been changing. That's why I'm glad I'm here. Maybe I can do something about it. Oh, I'm glad I met you and your daughter.
Thank you.
You two are a kind of test case for me.
What's a test case?
Well, if I can make you and your mother believe in me...
Speaking of tests, Mr. Kringle, would you kindly report to Mr. Sawyer's office the first thing tomorrow morning?
Mr. Sawyer?
Yes, he'll give you an examination.
A mental examination?
Oh, it's just routine. All of our employees are required to take an examination.
Oh, I don't mind. I've taken dozens of examinations. Never failed one yet. I'll see Mr. Sawyer first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Mrs. Walker. Bye, Susan.
Goodbye, Mr. Kringle.
Oh, excuse me, Chris.
I was just leaving. Bye. Bye-bye.
Hello, Doris. How are you, Susan?
I'm fine. Mother's got problems.
Fred, I'm worried about Mr. Kringle.
Worried? Why?
Well, I think he's mentally unsound.
I think he's a fantastic, delightful, and unselfish human being. And if being delightful, unselfish, and human is bad, what's good?
Well, Mr. Macy likes him, so I have to keep him. But not if he's insane.
Oh, nonsense.
Well, he thinks he's Santa Claus.
Well, maybe he is.
Well, suppose he gets worse. Suppose he gets violent.
Chris?
Nevertheless, I'm having Mr. Sawyer question him tomorrow. Only, how can I be sure that Kringle will even show up tomorrow?
It's easy. I'll take him home with me tonight and bring him to work in the morning.
Oh, would you?
All you have to do is to marry me.
Fred.
When I can afford it.
Do it, Mother.
Susan.
Well, then at least have me in to dinner tonight. With Mr. Kris Kringle, my house guest of honor.
Well, that evening, Kris Kringle went home with Fred Gailey. And after dinner in Doris Walker's apartment next door, Kris left Fred and Doris to discuss child psychology, or something, and stole quietly into Susan's bedroom. Susan, sophisticated child, was in bed, blowing bubblegum bubbles.
Oh, that was a big one.
Susan, why don't you give me a chance to prove to you that I'm really Santa Claus?
There is no Santa Claus.
Oh, now there must be something you want for Christmas.
Mother will get me anything I want.
Oh, but there must be something she can't get you.
Well,
There is something.
I'd like a house.
What, you mean a doll's house?
No, a real house. To live in.
A real house?
If you're really Santa Claus, you can get it for me. If you can't, you're only a nice man with a white beard, like Mother says.
Oh, but you've got this lovely apartment to live in.
I want a backyard to play in, and grass, and a white picket fence and rose bushes. But Mother can't afford it, and I guess you can't get it, huh?
No, I didn't say that, you know. Well, I've got to see Mr. Sawyer first thing in the morning. I'll get right to work on it after that, Susan, tomorrow.
Now, tell me, Kringle, how many days in the week?
7.
Who was the first president of the United States?
George Washington.
How much is 3 times 5?
Well, you asked me that before.
I'm conducting this examination. How much is 3 times 5?
Well, same as it was before, 15. You're rather nervous, Mr. Sawyer, aren't you? Do you get enough sleep?
Never mind. How many fingers am I holding up?
3? Oh, you bite your nails, too.
Kringle.
You know, sometimes nervous habits like yours are a result of insecurity.
I didn't ask you.
Oh, I just want to be helpful.
I didn't ask for help, you fuzzy old crackpot.
Mr. Sawyer, that's hardly the proper way to conduct a mental examination.
Oh, I'm wasting my time on a hopeless case. Get out.
Mr. Sawyer.
I said get out.
Mr. Sawyer, I have great respect for psychiatry and great contempt for imposters and quacks.
I beg your pardon.
I should like to see your degree in medicine.
Get out.
Also proof of your specialization in psychiatry.
Get out. Get out!
Now, either you stop analyzing people, or I'm going to tell Mr. Macy what a contemptible, vicious, malicious fraud you really are.
I'll have you committed to an insane asylum.
Well, you're the one who needs treatment.
You lunatic, are you saying I'm crazy?
Now, put down that inkwell.
Put down that cane.
Put down that inkwell.
You go first.
I'd better. You're dangerous.
When he recovered, Mr. Sawyer jingled Bellevue. And that is how Santa Claus, alias Kris Kringle, found himself that very morning in the violent ward at Bellevue Hospital.
You are listening to the Screen Directors Playhouse presentation of Miracle on 34th Street, starring Edmund Gwenn in his original Academy Award-winning role of Kris Kringle.
Late that afternoon, Fred Gailey, attorney at law, came to visit Kris Kringle in the violent ward at Bellevue Hospital.
All right, now, Kris, why did you do it?
Why did I conk Mr. Sawyer?
Why did you fail your examination by the doctors here at Bellevue? You did it deliberately.
I did. I said the first president of the United States was Calvin Coolidge.
But why?
Well, Fred, the last few days, I had a feeling people were warming up towards each other. Macy's sending customers to Gimbel's. Gimbel's sending customers to Macy's. Gimbel and Macy shaking hands. Wyszynski saying yes. People were beginning to make some sense, even if Doris did doubt me.
Doris hasn't believed in anything for years. Ever since her marriage went to pieces.
It wasn't just Doris. It was Sawyer. Now, he's contemptible, dishonest, selfish, vicious. Yet he's out there and I'm in here. He's called normal. I'm not. And we've got a world full of Mr. Sawyers. And if that's normal, I don't want it, Fred. That's why I answered those questions incorrectly.
But, Chris, what happens to a lot of people, like me, who do believe in you and what you stand for? What happens to people like little Susan, just beginning to believe?
Susan?
Are you going to let her down? People like that?
Well, I hadn't thought of that, Fred.
Are you going to quit right in the middle of your job?
Gee, you're right, Fred. I'm ashamed of myself. Let's get out of here.
Not so fast, Chris. Getting in here was easy. Getting you out will be a lot harder.
Oh, not for you. You're a fine lawyer.
Perhaps, but...
But what?
You've been ordered committed to a mental institution.
Oh, I see.
However, I've requested a formal hearing, and it's been granted.
But the issue being, do I jingle the bells or do the bets run the belfry?
Doctors doubt sanity of Santa who launched Goodwill campaign. Miss Kringle crazy? Court case coming. Calamity, cry kiddies.
Your Honor, the commitment papers being before you, I should like to call the first witness. Mr. Chris Kringle, will you please take the stand?
Delighted to do so, Mr. Prosecutor.
Mr. Kringle?
Your Honor?
This is merely a hearing. You do not have to answer the questions or even testify at all.
We've no objections, Your Honor.
Well, I'll be glad to answer any questions I can.
You may question the witness, Mr. Prosecutor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tell us, sir, what is your true name?
Chris Kringle.
And where do you live?
Well, that's what this hearing will decide.
Mr. Kringle, do you believe that you are Santa Claus?
Of course.
Perhaps the witness doesn't understand the question.
I understood the question perfectly, Your Honor.
In which case, Your Honor, the state rests.
In view of the defendant's statement, does counsel for the defendant wish to put in a defense?
Your Honor, the entire case against my client boils down to this. The prosecution contends that Mr. Kringle is not sane because he believes himself to be Santa Claus.
That is true.
But if Mr. Kringle were the person he believes himself to be, he would be as sane as we are.
Correct.
I intend to prove that Mr. Kringle is not insane because he is Santa Claus.
Fred, let's be sensible. You can't possibly prove that poor old man is Santa Claus.
Why can't I?
And he's not a poor old man.
Logic, Fred, not faith and hope wins out in court. That's just common sense.
And I guess in these last few years you've developed too much common sense.
Well, one of us has to have it, Fred.
And both of us have to have faith, Doris. Or we're wrong for each other.
I see.
Even when I can afford it, we're wrong for each other.
Well, I'm going to pray for Santa Claus.
Mr. Kringle, dear.
Santa Claus.
I mailed your letter to Santa, Susan.
Thank you very much.
Special delivery. He'll get it tomorrow.
And now, Mr. Macy, I will turn the questioning over to a person you know. A person in whom I have the deepest confidence and belief. My client and your employee, Mr. Chris Kringle.
But I don't know what to say.
Say it anyhow, Chris. Come on.
Well, they say that the man who pleads his own case is a fool for a client. But I won't let down anybody who believes in me.
You're a witness, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I don't know what to ask you, Mr. Macy.
Just ask me anything.
Well, how are things at the store?
Pretty good, Chris.
Sorry I can't be with you.
So are we.
Your substitute Santa doing all right?
Oh, he's just another Santa Claus.
Oh, no, Mr. Macy, you mustn't say that. He isn't just another Santa Claus, any more than this Christmas is just another Christmas. It's the same Christmas, timeless and unchanging, with the same deeper meaning it always has. The same summons to all men to have faith, not in any one faith, but to have faith in themselves, in mankind, in each other. Because if all the earth be laid in ruins and all our yesterdays and all man's wonders become smoke and ashes, and man remains, well, then everything remains. For all we have on earth that matters is each other. And that's what Christmas is. A time for unselfishness, a time for each other, for goodwill and understanding, and deep respect for all our fellow men.
Your Honor, Oh, very well.
Christmas isn't just once a year. Christmas is always. Flowering, let's say, in late December. And your new Santa Claus isn't just another Santa Claus, Mr. Macy. To the purest minds and the most immaculate souls among us, I mean the little children, he is Santa Claus. Because they believe he is. And that's good enough for me, Mr. Macy. That's good enough for me.
It's good enough for me, too, Chris.
Mr. Macy, do you believe I'm Santa Claus?
I certainly do.
Thank you, Mr. Macy.
Your witness, Mr. Prosecutor.
Your Honor, this is all very charming, but I must ask the court to demand that Mr. Gailey present competent authority. Competent authority, I say, for the contention that his client is Santa Claus.
Have you such authority, Mr. Gailey?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Will that be all, Fred?
Yes, Chris, for now.
Before you go, Mr. Kringle, the bailiff handed me this letter in care of this courthouse. It would appear to be for you. It's addressed to Santa Claus.
Oh?
The bailiff also informs me that the dead letter office of the post office department has forwarded some other mail addressed simply Santa Claus.
Well, that's very kind of them.
Your Honor! Your Honor! Where are those other letters? I request that they be entered in evidence.
I'm afraid that would be awkward, Mr. Gailey.
What do you mean awkward, Your Honor?
There are 9 truckloads of those letters.
Your Honor! Your Honor, counsel for the state has asked for authoritative testimony that my client is Santa Claus. The U.S. postal laws make it a criminal offense to misdirect mail or intentionally to deliver it to the wrong party. The Postal Department itself, therefore, recognizes this man, Kris Kringle, as Santa Claus.
Order! Order!
Objection!
Order!
Objection!
Order, I say. I say order. In view of such overwhelming testimony, case dismissed.
It was clear and cold when Fred and Kris Kringle got out on the courthouse steps. It looked and felt like a white Christmas, like a good Christmas, same as always.
What was in that letter anyhow, Chris?
Letter? Oh, clean forgot to open it. I better, though. It's from Susan.
I suspected it was.
Dear Chris.
Dear Chris, I don't care what anybody says, even the judge. I believe in you, even if I don't get the house. I know everything will turn out right. I hope you're not sad.
Signed,
Susan.
P.S.
P.S. I believe in you, too, and in your legal counsel.
Signed.
Doris.
You know, Chris, It was Susan's belief and faith that made her write you that letter. It was her letter that gave the post office the idea of forwarding all those dead letters to you.
Of course. A little child shall lead them.
She's a sweet little girl. I wish...
You know, Fred, there's a little Cape Cod cottage for sale out near the old people's home. Be just right for 3 people.
I can't afford anything right now.
Well, looking at that house a few days ago, I said to myself, Chris, one good case to bring him fame, and Fred Gailey could buy that little cottage and make a little girl extremely happy.
Chris.
And then Susan would know I'm Santa Claus.
Chris Kringle, did you hit Mr. Sawyer on the head to bring all this into court?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Chris, answer me straight. Who are you?
Me? I'm Chris Kringle.
Chris Kringle will return in just a moment. Next week, another great star brings one of his most brilliant performances to the Screen Directors Playhouse. Our story is One Way Passage, and recreating his original role will be William Powell with screen director Tay Garnett. Now, returning to our Screen Directors Christmas party, here is tonight's star, Edmund Gwenn.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think the 500 children in our Christmas party audience tonight are much more expert at this business of make-believe than we grown-ups. So many of us lose the magnificent gift of imagination. But when it does continue beyond childhood, we call it talent. Now, I would like you to meet the man to whom I owe so much. Writer-director of Miracle on 34th Street and of such other films as Apartment for Peggy and the soon-to-be-released 2 Corridors East. My author-director, George Seaton.
Thanks, Edmund. You know, watching these youngsters enjoy your performance tonight, I realized more than ever how an idea can grow into something real.
Well, you mean your idea for the miracle story, George?
No. That wasn't mine. The original story and the novel were written by Valentine Davies. But I had the pleasure of following it through as a screenplay, a motion picture, and tonight as a radio play. And if the story managed to bring a little more Christmas into the lives of these wonderful kids, then Miracle on 34th Street has worked a small miracle of its own.
Well, then tonight, George, as the creator of the picture, you are really playing the part of Chris Kringle.
Oh, no. I'm still the director. And, Edmund, you're still Chris Kringle. And it's time you went to work. There are a lot of presents here on the stage and a lot of deserving youngsters to receive them.
Mr. Director, I never had a happier assignment. A very Merry Christmas.
And a Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
And a Merry Christmas to you, Edmund Gwenn and George Seaton. Our thanks to R.H. Macy Department Stores for their gift of 500 Christmas stockings for our little guests, the publishing firm of Simon & Schuster for its gift of 500 children's books, and at the Country Store of Beverly Hills Candies for its presentations to the children. Remember next week, One Way Passage with William Powell and Tay Garnett on Screen Directors Playhouse. Miracle on 34th Street was presented through the courtesy of 20th Century Fox, currently releasing the Darrell F. Zanuck production 12 O'Clock High, starring Gregory Peck, and Prince of Foxes, starring Tyrone Power. Edmund Gwenn appeared by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of the Technicolor musical On the Town, starring Gene Kelly, Frank Sinatra, and Betty Garrett. This is Jimmy Wallington speaking and inviting you to listen again next week when we present...
Star William Powell, production One Way Passage, director Tay Garnett.
Next, it's Bill Stern and the Sports Newsreel on NBC.
That wraps up another edition of Condensed Bat-Supe, featuring 2 more parts of the Hate Mongers organization from The Adventures of Superman. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tell your friends to subscribe to Bat-Supe on their favorite podcatcher. We can also be found on YouTube and Facebook. Like what you're hearing? Support Bat-Supe and keep it ad-free at buymeacoffee.com/BATSUPE. And whether you're able to buy us a coffee or not, we're thankful for you, our listeners. We'll see you next time for another exciting edition of Condensed Bat-Supe as we bring you more of our current storyline and another fine Condensed Bat-Supe Extra Helping. Until then, up, and away!
Fellows and girls, I'm sure that if I ask you, you could tell me dozens of things that Thanksgiving Day stands for, like the courage of the Pilgrims and their happiness at finding a free land to live in. But you know, I wonder, have you ever stopped to think of how many millions of things you have to be grateful for on Thanksgiving Day or any other day of the year? Why, here in America, we have our families and our fun and friends. We have so many things that, well, we just take for granted, which so many young people in other countries are having to do without. Yes, gang, it's a good country we live in, and it's a good life we live in it. That's what we mean by Thanksgiving.